Now let's consider murder, this being the subject of verses 21 through 26. The Matthean Jesus forbids anger and insults that could escalate to murder. He forbids calling another fool, though in predictable Middle Eastern cultural inconsistency, Jesus hurls this slur at the scribes and Pharisees later on in Matthew chapter 23. For Jesus, squelching the feud between Jesus group members of his own faction, even takes precedence over temple worship. Now let's consider adultery and divorce, the subjects Jesus handles in verses 27 through 32. The world of the Gospels was extremely gender divided. The rigid and strictly enforced separation of men and women in this society made adultery almost impossible to conceal when it happened. Actually, adultery in the Bible was less a result of passion than it was a deliberate attempt by one man to shame another man. Deuteronomy chapter 22 called for the death of both parties, but the man often escaped, while the woman's father and brothers would kill her for shaming their family, humanely by stoning, but more likely by beheading. This goes on to this day, these honor crimes. It happens because the family, murdering their own daughter, believe that by doing so, they are saving the family. This is so because in this honor-shame society, the daughter remains a stain of shame on the house. So long as she continues to exist, she reminds the entire village that the males in this family cannot protect their females and are not truly males. No one will trade with them. They will become vagabonds, refugees, and eventually they will die. If the aggrieved husband takes no action against his wife, he would be considered a cuckold. If he took no action against the man, his own manhood would be further questioned. So the Matthean Jesus says to the Matthean Jesus group, forget adultery as a means of challenging other men, because the consequences are too devastating. It could lead to the Matthean Jesus group's extinction. Divorce is equally disruptive to a tight-knit community like that of Jesus' followers. Since the ideal marriage partners were first cousins, you know that Peter's mother-in-law was also his aunt. Divorce could tear apart the villages or Jesus groups in which these families lived and tried to make a living. So the Matthean Jesus says, forget divorce. Learn to live with your difficulty for the sake of family unity. Now please understand that these verses are not addressing 21st century marriage and divorce situations between American Christians. The Matthean Jesus group, however, seemed to allow divorce for reasons of sexual irregularity. The Greek words here and their Hebrew counterparts were matters of intense debate in first century Israel. The Matthean Jesus sides with the conservative school of Shammai, which recognized sexual misconduct on the woman's part as the only reason for divorce, against the more progressive school of Hillel, which allowed divorce for other reasons, like if the wife spoils a meal. Now consider lying, the subject of verses 33 through 37. The context here is selling. In the social setting of the Gospels, there was no Food and Drug Commission to ensure honesty. So how do you guarantee that what you're getting is honest? You have to swear, thereby putting yourself under a curse. So a seller would indirectly call God or the gods to witness his claim for his wares. Never mentioning God by name, the seller would swear, by my head, by my beard, on my life, on the souls of my grandchildren, by Jerusalem, etc. When he refused to make the gods or God explicit, conflict erupted. The Matthean Jesus therefore advises his Matthean followers to be honest and direct with one another at the market. Just be yes or no. We are addicted to turning Jesus the man into Superman, and we've been doing it for a long time. We like to think of Jesus as this advanced moral theologian or moral philosopher, but was he? Jesus' moral positions are contingent and contextual. They don't allow for tracing them back to a single or central principle, motive, or even abstract concept. Instead, the ethics of Jesus entails a range of reasons that, in general, were present in the symbolic moral world of his culture, and they were activated by situations. And that was also true of the earliest Jesus groups who followed him. Context scholars like the Stegeman brothers argue for an integrating interpretive approach to the ethics of Jesus. Jesus' ethos is part of the comprehensive cultural and social system, specifically Israelite tradition and the social institutions of Israel of the first century, and generally Mediterranean culture.